Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our...
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. New day, new show, new topic, new guests as always. Always trying to, come up with some interesting shows for you guys and, bring something new. And we've talked about a lot of different concepts in health and fitness and wellness. We even touched about dancing last week. But there is a concept in health that is important that we might sometimes not even think about it as something that can help in the health space and healthcare space. And that is the world of arts and how they impact health and what's their effect on health and on people in general. So today I have someone that actually specializes in this business and actually works for a company that does this for, day in, day out to help people in healthcare settings and assist them with their health. And not just the people, actually, even the people that work with in the setting to help them just be happier, healthier, and so on and so forth. So, I'm probably going to just butcher it. I want to give my guest the opportunity to explain that. But, one thing about him is that he has a lot of background in talk shows. He's been doing this for a long time. He has his own podcast. And his podcast is an interesting name. I want to say it, but I want to allow him to say that for us and give us the name for it. Again, as always, I start being a little bit of suspenseful, so let's not go there any further. So with me today, I have Richard Wilmore. Richard, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Listen, it's a pleasure. It's fun to have you on because I know we're going to have a lot of good stuff today, and I know people are going to benefit from the discussion. You and I connected, a few months back, and your topic was just unique, and it's a different angle, and you love it. You're passionate about it, and you've seen a lot of success. We're going to deep dive into that in a few minutes, but before that, I'd like you to share with us your story. And I know you have a good one, and especially in the world of talk shows and different guests and the fun that you've had in your dreams since you were a kid. So let's talk about all that.
Sure. Well, I don't know about you, but I was a 10-year-old boy who wanted to be a talk show host. Like, most 9-year-olds, boys want to be talk show hosts. And that's what I wanted to do for, literally, I was playing talk show in my bedroom. That's what I would do while everyone was outside playing. I was pretending to talk to Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, and that's how I was living my life. And then I was able to. My dog needs to come in now. And then I was able to actually do that in 2016. I had the chance to start my own talk show, and I started it in a basement in Maryland. Actually, I converted a basement into a TV studio, and I would have bands and I would have audience members. And at the time, social media wasn't a huge thing. And so I would go on Craigslist and I would find people who were coming to town to do things or promoting things back when that's what you were using Craigslist for. And I would just invite them over and be like, do you want to come in my basement and talk to me and I'll film it? And a lot of people said yes. So that's where it really started. And it's now a show that airs on Apple TV and Roku and Amazon Fire. So we've come a long way in 5 years.
Wow. Well, first of all, that is impressive because when you're that age and that's something you've thought about and, you made it work. And that's actually a beautiful thing because, not everybody actually does what they love when they grow up, or what they dreamt of when they were kids. And I can relate to that. I dreamt to work at Disney and that was my first job. So,
Wow.
When you set a goal, and again, for our purposes of the show, I try to always throw in some inspiration and motivation. You set a dream, no matter how big that dream is, as scary as it gets, go for it. Don't ever give up and make it work. And so you're just a perfect example of someone who, thought about this at an early age, who knows? At that age, everything can change in life. but you made it work. And the way you made it work is also more interesting. I mean, I get the concept of you converting your basement into a talk show place or maybe a studio. I did that. But when you're talking about having a live audience and capturing them from from just visiting the town, that's actually more interesting.
Yeah.
Now, is that, yeah, go ahead.
It was a weird, I'll get people who now, like, I was filming in a bedroom at one point, and people would contact me to be on the show thinking it was, they were going to a TV studio. Cause I filmed my first episode and never thought about editing or microphones or lighting. Like, none of that mattered to me. I just wanted to talk to people and hear people's stories. And so I filmed my first episode and I had all this footage on an iPad. And I thought, oh, I don't know what to do with this. Like, so I just Googled like free editing software, and I just have taught myself how to do it. So the goal with every show is to change something to better it. That's my goal with every show I do.
Listen, I did that too. You know what it is? That's perfect, because, most people think they have to be perfect when they start.
Yeah.
And I always say this, and the most successful people tell you the same: start first and fix it and tweak it, and it'll get better in time, and you'll get better at it, the more. But if you don't start, that's the bottom. You got to start first. You can have some basics. To your point, you started taking the shots, you started taking in the videos and did something, and then you're just like, this is not working, this is good, lightning, this, that, and next thing you know, you're on TV. Now you have your own, now you're on podcasts. And that's really actually, for anyone that's listening, and if you want to do this, you can. People are doing this and they're having a great time with it. They help a lot of people, and it can be very fun. I enjoy everything. Every show I have is fun.
I know. I feel so lucky to be able to talk to the people I get to talk to and interact with the people I get to. And you think about the people who become famous overnight. So they've been, stand-up comedians who are famous overnight have been working in crappy clubs for 20 years, trying to get to that one moment where all of a sudden you're famous. So nothing ever happens overnight, really.
Well, again, that's actually powerful. And you're right. I mean, people see the success today. They don't know how long it took to be there, but it takes nights. And to your point, it could be in somewhere nobody even knows about you, and you just trying and getting better at it. And you get, noticed one day, and that's when, that whole flame, comes out. Oh my God, we love him and whatever. But what did it take to get there? And everybody, any top actor, if you look at their stories or a performer in general, any successful person, you look at their performance, over the years, it took a minute. They did a lot of, some of the top stars, they started with commercials, and, and some of the athletes, they've lost many, games before they became, who they are today. But that's really life for everyone watching and listening. I mean, you should just always consider that. Never think that failure is going to be something that's going to stop you, because it won't. If anything, it will just teach you more and make you stronger and better at whatever you do. Yeah. Well, listen, so that was good. I mean, although that was not really.
That's our podcast. Goodbye. No.
We haven't even begun, right? We haven't even started yet. But really, I mean, again, we relate to this because we both have almost similar, concepts about it, and we almost share the same ways of growth on this particular realm. And you know what, it works, and it's going to work for anybody and anything that you do, as long as you do it, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. That's all. Exactly. So now let's talk about, first of all, what kind of shows, I mean, what kind of guests do you have? I mean, just different topics, or you just focus on art in general?
On my show, The Richard Wilmore Show, it's an entertainment variety show. So I have actors, comedians, authors, musicians, you name it. I've had fire eaters. I've had everything on there. Anybody who's doing something fun is what I want to talk to. And then I also host an arts and health podcast.
All right, so let's talk about that. What's the name of it?
It's called Arts for the Health of It.
I love it. Well, our theme is health and wellness. So I think that's a great segue to our discussion today. But I do want to say that something about what you just said about your show and your guests. You're right. I mean, I know actually I've seen some of the things, I've read some of the preview stuff about you and your show, and you've had some celebrities there too, so it's an interesting, you get a diversified, crowd and different, guests and different angles. And that's sweet. I mean, you share that with people, and that's fun.
Yeah. The power of an Instagram DM. It's what that is when I get famous people on.
Hey, listen, whatever it takes, right?
Exactly.
And it's working. That's what matters. That's it. And people, it can work. It will work. Just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Arts for the health of it. Just love that title. I told you this. It's just like, people got to get that one. I mean, I just had to highlight that one more time. But let's go about that. So that's the podcast.
Mhm.
But you do work for a not-for-profit, organization that actually kind of promotes arts in the health world. So let's talk about that company and the work you do, and then let's correlate that to the podcast. And because it's got to be the same theme and the same topic.
Yeah. So I met the founder randomly at a theater one night when I first moved to San Antonio. She had a little table, and I knew the guy who was running the theater. I went to go see a play, and he said, "Oh, I want to introduce you to someone." And so I went over there, and she had this little cardboard sign that she made herself, and she was like a year. I think Hearts Need Art was like a year old at the time, and so I talked to her, and I ended up booking her on my talk show to come and do some art. And we talked about Hearts Need Art. And then I went home, and I thought, you know what? Like, I have a good life. I'm well, I'm healthy, I'm paying my bills. I should volunteer for them. So I filled out their their volunteer application. And she emailed me back like 4 seconds later. And I was like, "Is this Richard Wilmore?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "Oh my gosh, we'd love to have you." So I went and got coffee with her and talked to her, and she was running this nonprofit all by herself. Like, she was the only one doing everything. And I thought, she needs help. And so I just started volunteering and give me more stuff to do. And she was finally like, "You're doing more work than I'm doing. Like, we need to start paying you." So in a cool way, I got to kind of create my own job. And I was the first full-time employee at Hearts Need Art. And what we do is we hire musicians, artists, and writers, and we go into hospitals, and we work with adult patients and their family members and medical staff, and we make art, and we create music, and we do writing sessions with them. And it's a great way to kind of distract from why you're in a hospital. We work with a lot of cancer patients who are there for, a year at a time, and oftentimes it's their last stop on their journey of life. And so there are a lot of emotions up and down with family members and themselves. And we get to create a safe space where they can express themselves, not necessarily have to talk about anything that deals with why they're in the hospital. And oftentimes there's a lot of laughter, which I was shocked when I first started going in there. You think, I grew up, my dad was diagnosed with cancer when I was in second grade, and he's had cancer almost every year since. And thankfully he's still alive. And but I thought, this would have been amazing to have when he spent years in hospitals, and he had nothing to do but sit there and watch awful television and sleep. And so this gives people something to talk to their doctors about, their nurses about, and their families about, that is something other than why you're sitting in a hospital.
Wow. Well, it's amazing. You started, you said that's funny what you said about, I had the luxury of starting my own job. and that's funny because not everybody gets to do that, right? And you were able to do this. But it's funny because you did volunteer and because you were into it, and amazing, like you started as a volunteer and you wound up actually in a career path here almost. Mm-hmm. And not only that, it's fulfilling enough because you're talking about some serious illnesses. I mean, cancer is probably one of the most devastating, diseases that exist out there. And, people do suffer. And to your point, when some of these folks are in hospital, whether at any given age, it is not a picnic. It is a very, lonely journey, no matter what. Their mind is always thinking about health and life and all that. And they need that distraction. TV sometimes that's not going to do it. And they need a little bit of life and spice in that life of theirs at any given time. And I'm sure some people you were able to assist one way or the other to overcome, their dilemmas and pain because their mind is, kicking nice and laughter and is a medicine, right?
And, I mean, it reduces anxiety, it reduces pain levels. So it actually helps the medical staff be able to assist them better. And they often, there are reports that engaging in the arts, you actually are able to give them less pain medication, so they're on less drugs while they're in there because they're able to channel all of that into something else that isn't, when you sit there for days on end and no one's visiting you, especially during the pandemic when you have no visitors, like this is how you get sick. This is how you remain sick, is that you have no outlet and you're just sitting there wondering what the rest of your life is going to be like.
Well, it is tough. And again, you're hitting on a very powerful point, which is, we're talking about the patients, but the staff too. It takes a toll on both, and you're right. If the patients are not responsive and they're struggling, I mean, the staff will always going to get harder times to administer things or even get through to them. But if everybody's happy and the mood is right, things can be easier and more comfortable for all. That's so powerful right there.
Yeah.
Now, what kind of art? I know you mentioned music and stuff. So what kind of program do you actually run, at those facilities?
So before the pandemic, we were doing group activities where everyone would get invited to like an art room, and we would have a teacher there, a facilitator, and they would have a project, and either people could participate in that project, or if they weren't feeling it, they could do whatever they wanted, really. It's very patient-led. Whatever they want to do is what we allow them to do. There are obviously barriers. We're not therapists. Mm-hmm. We're just artists from the community who want to come in and hang out with people. So there are some boundaries that we have to make sure we don't cross or get the right people involved when those boundaries are crossed. But it's anything. It's literally from crocheting to painting to crayons, which, as adults, to like, when's the last time you held one of those things, like, and you get that in your hand and suddenly you're a 3-year-old and you're just scribbling. And oftentimes that's what it is. It isn't, I say most of my artwork gets hung on the walls of a garbage can, but it isn't the point of like what comes, the final piece. It's that camaraderie of being in a room with people. It's just the mark making is what it's all about.
Well, it makes life goes better and faster in a way and enjoyable. Also, there's the spirit of competition because you got other people and who's going to get the best drawing and whatever. I can just see the whole, I've seen that actually not in the same scenario, but close enough in like senior centers and some of these places where they do have activities, and it gets very rowdy and those people can get real fun. Again, with the pain level and things like that, some of these folks can have, medication, and some of them probably are linked to, some sort of an IV. It's a little harder, but again, nevertheless, it does make a difference for their lives. And at the moment, again, the least you think about your sickness, the better you are and the better off you are. So you're giving them enough hours to not think about their status and just be, immersed in something different. And that's powerful. And again,
we don't have time limits with people now that we're not allowed to do group things. We do bedside, so we go into everybody's room and we can paint their windows, or we can sit at the bedside and do something with them. And there isn't like therapy time's up in an hour, I have to go. Sometimes our artists are in there for hours at a time, and sometimes they're not even doing art, they're just chatting because they just want to talk to someone about life. So it's very interesting. But you were talking about the competition thing, and we did a group class before the pandemic where we bought little wooden like vehicles. And so we did a painting class, and the table was covered and everybody painted their little trucks. And then I took off the table cover and there was a racetrack under it. And to watch these adults like in their 50s and 60s get excited about racing little cars around a folding table was the most exciting day of my life.
Well,
but you go back to that.
Well, again, listen, there is no age to fun. Remember I said about the dream of working at Disney. Disney brings the magic in everyone and the child in everyone. So it doesn't matter how old you are when you go there. You become your that little kid that you were back whatever age you were, and you were having fun. It's the same thing. So when you have fun and you have activities, everybody gets to be, bring out that childish, moment in you and personality, and that's fun. And, but again, I think the key here, you're right, you're not therapists, but psychologically speaking, you're doing a lot more than people would see, because their mental state is in a better place, and even their activity, they're moving. They're not just, sitting in the bed getting some bed sores. It's actually doing something for their body. They're moving. The limbs are, getting activities and motion, and that's a whole different world right there. And I'm sure you're also supported by therapy and staff around. And you said you do this not only just for them, you also do activities with their caregivers and the staff at the facilities. and again, they all are equally important. If those guys are happy and they're comfortable, they can do better in terms of taking care of, those folks, and the ultimate result, everybody wins.
Exactly.
So now when you met the lady, and you started this whole journey, you knew what she was doing as an opportunity, or you discovered it at that time?
I had never heard of arts and health before, and it never was a word or a phrase that I had ever heard. But as soon as she told me what she was doing, I was like, well, duh, yes. And at the time, I was actually going through a divorce, and so I was in a really bad state myself. And I thought, you know what? I need to make myself feel better. I'm going to take myself on a date and go to the theater and see a play. And now looking back, I'm like, that was arts and health. That was exactly what I was doing, was for my health, for my own health. I needed to go ingest in the arts. And that's also important to know that, I'm not a professional artist ever. My first class I went to with Hearts Need Art, I sat around the table and we were painting something. And I remember watching everybody else paint, and I wouldn't start until I saw what everyone else was doing, because I was so competitive in my head and I didn't want to be the worst one in the room. And now I know that I'm usually the worst one in the room, but that's okay. That's not the point. But it was exactly what I needed. And it's not just making art for people who are afraid to do that, or making music or writing. It's ingesting. It's going to museums, even if they're virtual museums. It's going to see plays. All of that actually has health benefits that are recorded.
Well, it does. And I'm going to give you, listen, we talk about the seventh art, or the movies and all this stuff. That's actually been I love the gym. I love working out and travel and stuff, but and driving actually. So a couple of things get me nice and comfortable. That's my Zen time, is when I just zone out in a movie and just kind of blank out the world. And it actually, yes, it's sci-fi, whatever, fiction. Some of it is actually teaching and learning, right there. But at the same time, it's just my thing. So to your point, everybody has a different, way, and any form of art can be utilized to assist you and get you in your own, place. And sometimes it does diffuse your whatever anxiety and feelings you have. It just mellows you down, and that's big. Yeah. I don't know of anyone that goes to movies and comes up really, pissed. You come in, right. If it's depressed, if it's actually some sort of a drama, you might be crying, whatever. So you're emotional. And if it's action, you just get all pumped up and you're into it. So it gets you living in a fake world for a minute, but actually it just kind of zones up everything. The reality of things stops. And that moment is a reset for you. So now you can go back and have a better, energy, and it works. So, and you're right. You see artists, just painting. Some people take painting as an actual hobby, and it's relaxing. You go in, you take some time, and it brings that nice creativity and all that, and just the site itself. And so it's many. Music is another. It's great, and everybody loves music. I don't know of anyone that doesn't like music. I don't think I've met one yet, but all kinds of music. I interviewed someone whose dad didn't like music. She was a musician, and her father hated music, but he loved the sound of nature. He loved birds. And I was like, that's music. It's music, exactly. It's just he would call her music noise. Can you please stop that noise? But he loved the sound of nature. And he was the only person I've ever met that doesn't like music. Well, again, now I met, I didn't meet him yet, but at least I know of one. But like you said, sometimes we define things the way we are, but music is in nature. You don't need to have an instrument to hear music. It's all around us. There are people literally that just compose nature, sounds and into some sort of a, hearing thing. And some people have, YouTube channels for this, and there are real CDs that are selling out there just to hear the sounds of nature. Yeah. So, and it's soothing. It's actually pretty good. But so now you get your guests somehow. Now, is that the same trick you used, when you did the shows? Instagram DMs? Yeah. Yeah, sometimes. Yes. Otherwise, we use different platforms online that are for podcasts and podcast guests, or we're just I see articles of people that are out doing the work or have been affected by the work, and I reach out to them. I find their email, and that's usually how it works. So, you just find them. The internet's full of people, so you find them and ask. And the woman who made our theme song to the podcast, the founder actually found on TikTok.
she was going through TikTok and this song came up and she was like, oh my God, I love this song. This would be perfect. And we contacted her and she recorded the song. It wasn't a recorded song. She was just at her piano playing one day. The entire song wasn't even written. So she finished writing the song and they recorded it and produced it for us. So they're everywhere. We find them everywhere.
Well, I mean, that's very nice to hear that, people are out there willing to help, and I'm not sure if they get paid or not, but whether they are or not, I mean, that's one. I mean, people don't work for free typically. I mean, they can volunteer and do stuff. But even when you said you stay there for hours, bedside and help, people have better things to do, but they would choose to be there and they're helping. That must be unique to know that. Well, it's not unique, but it's, I think, very heartwarming, I think, to everyone listening, that people are willing to do the right thing in this world and help others in a lot of different ways. Who would have thought that people would just basically say, okay, I want to go and work in this environment and help people that are sick and do this? I mean, not everybody might think about it, but it is happening.
Yeah. And a lot of times you don't know about it. We do pay our artists and our musicians and our writers. Some are volunteers because they just want to do the work. But we're an arts organization, so we think it's very important to pay for the arts. And so we do offer that. And we have musicians who will sell out concerts who don't do that anymore because they want to spend their time one-on-one with someone in a hospital. And to them, they get more out of that than an arena full of people. And I feel like that really says something about the power of it.
It's amazing.
Because they're not making as much money at Hearts Need Iron as they were selling out a club. But that means more to them.
Well, a true artist is never in it for the money. Money is good.
Exactly.
Listen, money can do a lot of things and get you better exposure. It helps. But at the end of the day, if you do it for the right reasons, money will come. And that's really the bottom line. And again, these guys are doing this. Who knows, one day someone, oh my God, I work here and we want you to do this big charitable concert, whatever. And now you have plenty of money available to you. I mean, there's so many things. I mean, I said charitable, but they're sponsored somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's the other thing. So it is a not-for-profit or non-profit. I mean, I know there's a little difference between the two. And so obviously they have sponsors and folks that actually contribute and donations and for the right cause. And it's big. How easy to actually get people to really support this cause?
We have a really great group of people who support us monthly. We do a lot of Facebook fundraising. We also apply for a lot of grants throughout Texas and the United States. We have someone who's very part-time who kind of works on that side of it. But there are a lot of people who either have benefited from Hearts Need Art or know the power of it in life that support us every month or every week. So we're very lucky.
What about
we're relatively small. We're not a huge, we're not like this giant nonprofit that has 3,000 employees. We have 12. I'm still the only full-time employee here. So we have a lot of contracted artists and staff members, but we're still a very small nonprofit.
Well, listen, I mean, again, it hasn't been long, right, since this started. So like everything else, starts small and grows. And again, the word is out there. You're doing it now. Are you working also with the healthcare facilities and the healthcare settings to subsidize some of the costs and sponsor some of these artists?
Yeah, we started before the pandemic in one hospital, one floor on one hospital, and the pandemic happened, and all of a sudden there was a need for programming. People weren't allowed in, but everyone was virtual. So we started getting calls from hospitals around the country who needed virtual programming. And we were kind of one of the first arts and health organizations to go virtual so that people were hearing about us. And we now work with the USC and Northwestern in Chicago and Sloan Kettering in New York. And some of them pay, some of them don't, some of them pay a percentage. It all kind of depends on budgets, and we work with grants. We can, hook up with them and double apply for a grant. They're all different ways of funding it, but it's hard when you're a nonprofit. Everyone assumes that everyone's a volunteer and you don't need any money, but it still costs money to do things. Crayola, we'd love to have them give all of our supplies that we use, but they don't. Someone has to buy them.
Well, again, it's funny. Long time ago, I used to work at, I've been in the health industry as well, and I'm in the insurance world. And we were in the government programs for the most part. And there were times where we did a lot of activity, and we actually reach out, to like Toys R Us and things like that. And we had them literally sponsor some toy drives and things like that. And they paid for all of it. I mean,
Mhm.
there are companies that are willing to put their name out and be part of the community fabric and help. But you're right. It's not always, they're not going to always do it, but they do have budgets. All these companies out there, they have
Yeah.
budgets for community, outreach and events and so on and so forth. So they can do some of it. But again, to your point, it is going to cost something to do anything in this world. And
Yeah.
volunteering works only so much. but there's different ways to generate the right funding and things like that. Now, I want to talk about the experience of these people that you guys are helping. What are some of the most notable moments that you've probably encountered or some of your folks have, seen or felt? And also maybe some of the testimonials that some people really came to you says, you saved my life. Or even, maybe the children of someone saying, you know what, my parent was not doing good. Then cheered them up to a point. And even if they went, they went in a happy time, whatever, they were in a better place. Anything of that, type of stories that I'm sure there's some, there's no way
Yeah.
you do all this work and they're going to hear.
Yeah. So as like a performer for myself, I went in the first couple times thinking like, I'm here to make them feel better. I'm here to like make sure they're smiling, but that's not what it is. We're really there to meet them where they're at. If they're having a bad day, they're having a bad day. If they want to express that, cool. But I'm not necessarily there to make sure that they're smiling when I leave. That's not my goal. And so I always tell patients that I like no's as much as I like yeses, and they can say no to me, but that doesn't mean I'm not coming back tomorrow to ask them if they want to hang out with me. And that can go on for weeks at a time until someone either gets bored or they get sick of me coming in and they finally say, yes, fine, I'll come do whatever you want me to do. And that happened once with a male patient, and he went to an art class finally and came out of it and he was crying and he shook my hand and he just said, thank you. And we hear that all just like, because they don't know what else to say, they can't do anything else, but it's just like a thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for continuously to ask me if I want to. And then of course, because I'm a baby, I started crying too, because I was like, finally, I got him. But it's like those moments, where we're not there to force them to do anything, but we're also not there to like give up on anybody either.
Well, available to them.
Exactly. Yeah. And then another time, same thing, where they didn't want to come and didn't want to come out. There was a staff member actually, and they were embarrassed and they didn't want to like make bad art, and they finally came. And after a couple times, he came up to me and he said, Richard, I think I'm an artist. And I was like, you are an artist. And he ended up, one of his designs got put on one of our greeting cards. And so he bought a whole bunch to like hand out to his family and tell them that he made them. So it's moments like that. And we hear a lot from family members, especially after patients pass. They reach out to us to see if we have any of their artwork, because we make little art galleries in the hospitals where we hang their artwork in the hallways, and patients can go and show their family members or their medical staff like what they created. So that's always a really bittersweet moment where you hear about it kind of after they're gone. But we've had it where they'll reach out to us, and sometimes we didn't even know that we had that much of an impact, but the family member will ask if we would perform at their funeral, because they've heard so much about what an impact we've had on them.
That's some powerful stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be, very, very pleasing to know that, you're doing this, and there is some unique satisfaction to it, because again, just hearing these stories, I mean, even us, I'm listening to you right now for the first time about this, and it does have a little feeling about it. I mean, it touches you, right?
Mhm.
I wish, I mean, there's more of these activities out there, and, healthy or sick, people need some sort of a assistance. We all need it. I mean, whether,
Yeah.
we talked about movies and stuff, but I mean, there's different ways, and on art is the other part, right? Now, is there any art level or art style that you guys see more, I guess appeal for, or, more people kind of enjoy, than others? For example, I mean, got music, and you got painting, you got all these other arts and crafts, whatever. But is there anyone that people prefer more than the other, or at least
I think
engage more with?
sure, yeah. A really easy point of entry for us is asking someone if they want their window painted in their hospital room, because they can participate or not. We've had patients who love just watching it happen, and then we have patients who are like, "Give me a paintbrush," and they'll get out of their beds and paint some of the window, and that is really fun to watch because they get to decide what goes on their window. So it can be anything, and we'll hopefully figure it out to at least make it look decent if it's completely crazy. But I mean, there's anything from like beach scenes to football players on their windows, and they get to customize their rooms that they have to spend so much time in. So that's always really special. And then when their family comes, then they're surprised, and sometimes they'll leave it for the next person coming into the room, and then that person kind of gets to enjoy that, or we can take it down and do something custom for them. But that's usually probably the most requested thing from people. But we'll get everything. We'll get everything from like, hey, do you have a crochet kit, to do you have colored pencils? Or do you have a ruler and a piece of paper? Like, or we'll have, like anybody can be in a hospital. So we'll get professional musicians, and we'll get professional artists in there who come in, and they already have their entire room stocked full of high quality equipment. And so now they just get to artist on artist, get to spend time with another artist creating. That's always really cool too, to be a part of.
Nice. So now let's talk about the podcast. You obviously started it for this purpose, because I mean, you know this business well enough. And so the topics that you choose, are they, arts related 100%? I mean, and you get basically artists to have a chat with and talk about like, some form of art and how it benefits, similar to what we're doing right now, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
we felt like there weren't a lot of podcasts or places that people could find out about it. And one of our part of our mission and our vision is advocacy for arts and health. And so we wanted to kind of expand that. I, of course, being me, wanted to like create a whole television channel and make programming. And the founder was like, let's slow down a little bit. I don't think we have time to become the next Oprah or the next PBS, but like, what can we actually do? And I was like, well, what about a podcast? And so we talked to people who are doing from all over the world, who are doing the work, who have benefited from the work, who are doing research on arts and health. And I mean, it's really great because I get to learn, again, selfish. I get to learn about what's going on out there. And then in that way, we can teach other people as well.
well, Richard, I told you earlier, if everybody was as selfish as you, we would all want to be selfish, because your selfishness actually does help others. And typically selfishness is about you and nobody else. so this is, it's a unique, angle on this.
I try to put myself in the position of like, I'm just like the stage for people. Like, use whatever platform I have to like tell the world what you're doing.
Well, listen, you said it. I mean, I didn't even think about it, but you're right. You're talking to people who are actually involved in studies and research in the impact of art and health. And there's plenty of work out there that's being done. And just hearing these perspectives. And you're right. One thing that I do here, I learn tremendous amount of stuff on a day-to-day basis, with my diversified guests. I'm in the health and wellness, and this is new to me. And we're talking about arts and stuff. I haven't had anybody before. So just imagine, I've learned, a few things just in this half hour now. And that's really the most important part about it. I mean, but as I'm learning, everybody that's watching and listening right now is learning as well. And that's the beauty of it. So you share that knowledge and the wealth across. And this stuff doesn't go anywhere, because once it's in the internet, it's for life. It's infinite. And, 10 years, thousands, maybe millions will actually have seen and heard some of the stuff. And that's going to benefit people over the centuries to come, if life goes on, beyond, the obvious. And again, that's a unique thing. That's actually what the legacy is. So now, how often do you guys do the podcast?
We release new episodes once a week,
Okay.
but we talk to people we're recording all the time. We actually are like 2 months ahead of release dates. So we're taking a little bit of a break just to like breathe for a minute and concentrate on some other stuff. We started before the pandemic, we were in one hospital, and because of the pandemic and after, we're now in like 12 different hospitals because the need grew so much. So we're trying to figure all that out and make sure we have enough artists and musicians and writers and scheduling and all of that crazy stuff. So it's a good time to take a little break. But new episodes come out every week, every Wednesday.
Excellent. So now you said 12 hospitals, that's in Texas, and then you
Yes.
also do the virtual stuff.
Exactly.
So you're still doing, you're going to continue with the virtual national.
Yeah, I mean, we were doing more earlier, but we've really scaled that down to really like who needs what, because there's so much out there in the virtual world, and that's great to be virtual, but there's nothing like sitting a few feet from someone and creating, and the benefits of that. So we do it kind of on an as needed basis. We're not a virtual 24 hours a day or even every day of the week like we are in person, but I think that element of us will never go away.
So how can people reach out and actually, basically solicit your services and your work?
Yeah, you can go to our website, heartsneedart.org, and there's a book us section, there's a virtual art session, there's everything you need is right there on our website. We also started a program called Gratitude Grams for medical staff, where you can either sign up to receive them or you can send one to someone, to a medical professional, and we create weekly little like 5-minute videos of all the different types of arts for medical staff to open up and listen to a song or do a quick art project on their break, and it gives them a moment to kind of breathe and think about something else, because medical staff burnout is insane right now and everyone is sick and being forced to work. And so we have sent out thousands of those since we started that last year, and that's been a really great program that we started.
So you actually just brought something to my mind. Now, when you do the programs at the hospital, right, is that like two separate programs for the patients versus the staff, or you just mix them up and they can have, all one, event going on with everybody participating?
I mean, kind of both. So if we're in a room, and we've had where we're in a room and then a nurse walks in and they're playing the ukulele and she's like, oh, I know the ukulele. So then, do you have 5 minutes? Yes, we hand her a ukulele and then we're all hanging out together. But we also do staff specific things like in the break rooms. And we have days where musicians go in and just play at the nurses' stations, live music at the nurses' stations. So a little bit of both. They're, of course, anybody who wants to join, family members, medical staff, when we're in a room is welcome to join. But we do specific stuff for the staff as well.
And how often do you kind of book these things? And how advanced notice you need to book some of these events?
The virtual stuff?
Well, physical or virtual? I mean, physical specifically would probably.
I mean, we have a schedule, a weekly schedule that goes out, so the hospitals know when we're coming to do what program. The virtual stuff, we've literally gotten requests of like, can you do something tonight? And if someone's available, we're there. So, that's. I would prefer a little bit of time to figure it all out, but sometimes you're needed, and then you got to go.
Well, listen, I mean, I do the same. Sometimes you get a last minute request, you got to do what you got. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It helps. Well, so any work with children? I know we've talked about mostly adults, but have you done any work with the children or younger folks?
A little bit. What our founder realized, she was a childhood leukemia survivor. And so when she was going through her treatment, the children's hospital is like a circus. There's stuff going on all the time. There are clowns coming in and out. There's always stuff to do. And then she became an adult and started volunteering. She's a professional singer, and realized what adult floors look like in hospitals, and there's nothing going on. So that's really our focus, is young adult and older. But we were doing ukulele lessons with kids, I think 10 and up at one point before the pandemic. We haven't been able to go back since then, but we were doing music lessons with children for a while.
All right. Well, again, listen, first of all, I have to say, again, I don't know who the founder is personally. I mean, I'm hearing about her today. And so I guess are the audiences right now and the viewers, but I have to say, I want to thank her for whatever, her mission and vision. I mean, someone who's been through it and given back in this particular way, it's just impressive. And, again, she's commendable. So I always try to give credit to anyone that's doing anything, righteous and good in this world. So both of you guys, are awesome, doing a great job, and it's needed. So that brings me to one more question here. Are you open to maybe expanding your physical presence in other states other than the virtual, like you did in Sloan Kettering and some others, like, maybe if people are listening and watching right now and they want to participate and maybe volunteer in different states, is that something that you're open to? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Yeah, that's a great question, because we get requests like that all the time, and we've explored that. It just takes so much time and energy and funds, that we're so small that we're really concentrating on, like, we're sort of like in the incubator stage, I think, like perfecting it here in San Antonio. And then figure out how to kind of not necessarily franchise it, but how do you get it, the Hearts Need Art brand, how do you train people in another city to do exactly what we're doing here so it's similar? So we haven't done it yet, but we do get that request all the time. That's always in the back of our heads of, like, in our 5-10-year plan to really create kind of a stamp to be able to do it around the country. But anybody can really, I mean, our founder just started volunteering. She went into a hospital and said, hey, can I come in once a week? So, and you'd be surprised if you just Googled arts and health in wherever you are, there's a maybe good chance that there's already someone doing it there that you could kind of hook onto.
So now we talked earlier about the cost and the sponsorship, but now have you maybe worked or partnered with health plans? I mean, ultimately, somebody is paying for those beds and the service, and health plans usually try to contribute back to the health of their members, to keep them healthier and, maybe even off the hospital. But certainly they do have the ability to do that. I mean, we sponsor a lot of events on at least in New York, that's where I am. We do events with communities, with hospitals and different things. So there's always a budget for those things. I don't know if that's, you've I guess explored it, and maybe it's open to some of these folks can just join efforts with you guys in the same mission, and they do love that stuff.
So what I know about, like, are you talking about like health insurance and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So what I don't know a ton of that, because that's like the nerdy Stanzi founder side and her spreadsheets, and I'm just the, like, let me make it look pretty. But from what I've heard is that it's really hard to get insurance to support stuff like this, because right now, especially here in the United States, it's seen as like extra and not actually vital to the patient experience. So, when you go in the hospital and you get that, like, questionnaire after, and you have to, like, rate your experience of the hospital, that our program isn't on any of those. So there's all this, like, legislation and coding, and there's all this, like, stuff that has to go into it in order for it to actually be something that an insurance company would pay for.
Well, no, as a billable, as a coded, no, I get it, but that's got to take a lot more, but I'm talking more like because again, health plans do have their own community events and community teams and support that they do stuff in the community, and this could be a hospital that you participate with, and they have some potential members that may be there. Sometimes that, again, I'm just saying that could be something where health plans can benefit as well as can help.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, because some of them might not even know. So once they learn, then they're like, oh.
Yeah, listen, I mean, we've sponsored a lot of stuff in hospitals in New York, for many years, and and we do different things and activities similar, in the floors or whatever. There's no reason why not. I mean, but some hospitals, obviously, like Sloan Kettering, for example, doesn't take any insurance, or maybe one or two insurance companies, if any. So it's limited because of the type of care and things like that and the cost, and so insurance don't really contract with them. But some others, they may have cancer, units and stuff like that, and some of the members of that plan could be, affected, and therefore there may be some vantage point there. I don't know. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
a thought that come. I always try to connect the insurance to all these activities. And I think most people think insurance, these bad guys, and they don't care and they just want to cut the pay. And I don't think that's the case. There's commercial insurance is one thing, there's government programs is another. And, depending on where you stand on that, there are a lot of different things that can be done. Even from a care management,
Right.
most people don't even realize that there are medical staff that are in the insurance staff, that they do care about the members, and they want them to stay healthier and so on and so forth. And they do whatever it takes to help them physically and mentally be fit. So there is no reason why there's not a potential interest there. Again, it's a question to the public as they listen, and maybe someone can say, hey, we can help, in Texas.
Well, for all I know, that's like above my pay grade, and that's someone else's job to figure all that out. So Stanzi, the founder, will probably listen to this and she'll text me and be like, I'm already doing that. Like, so,
hey, listen, if you are, that's it.
But thumbs up. Yeah, exactly. So but yeah, that's all I know about it from my experience.
Well, listen, I try to, it's amazing, but I just comprehend the work that you guys do and the connection between the art and health and how you doing it is fantastic. So, is there anything, we're coming to the end of the show, is there anything that you want to just leave the audiences with in terms of an advice or any type of message you want to send?
I think the only thing I would say, because I say this all the time in our meetings, is I wonder what would happen if people didn't wait until the point of crisis to engage in the arts. Like if we were all just creating every day and we were all going to museums, like how our lives would change. But instead we wait, when the pandemic happened, everyone, where was that? In like Italy, everyone was on their balconies singing to each other, and all the museums were giving away free access to their virtual stuff, and plays were doing, like, what would happen if you were just doing that when you were healthy? How that would change your life. And instead of waiting until you're sick in a hospital bed. So that's why I feel so lucky that I get to do it every day in all of my different jobs. Like I get to take in the arts every day, and in many ways it has saved my life. So I want people to do it before they get sick is really my last thing that I would say.
Well, listen, preemptive art. Preemptive action, I think is
exactly.
I wouldn't even add anything because I think that's beautiful, that's powerful, and we leave it at that. So Richard, it's been real. It was super fun, and I've learned a lot, and I hope that our audiences will benefit from this particular show. And again, they have the way to reach out to you guys directly to the website. I'll have the description in the link in the description of the show. So that's going to happen. So that's about it. So Richard, thank you so much for being with us. Folks, thank you for being with us today and watching and listening on iHealth Radio. And we'll be talking soon. New guest, new day, new show, new topic. Bye for now.